You're listening to Procurement 6, the weekly podcast from the team at Art of Procurement that summarizes this week in procurement in just 6 short segments.
Hi there, I'm Helen Mackenzie and today is Friday, May 19th, 2023.
6.
Did you know that simply measuring something can help to improve it? We've all heard the anecdote about how many more steps someone takes when they have a pedometer, but could the same be true for procurement? Now, supplier diversity is one area where measuring and benchmarking could be the key to driving improvement. As Supplier IO's Eileen Basson tells us, it's extremely important for companies to know what best-in-class companies are doing. Now, I know benchmarking against best practice helped my procurement team improve performance, so my tip of the week is to work out what you want to improve, whether it's something tactical like a clear inbox at the end of the day, or strategic like supplier diversity. Measure it and see if you can improve.
5.
Now, most of us have been through a team structure review at least once in our careers. When I was a senior leader, I seemed to be perpetually looking at whether the operating model we had in place for teams was still fit for purpose for the functions that we had. So, review and change is something that's important, and perhaps inevitable, or dare I say essential, and particularly to making sure procurement continues to drive out value and serve the business. So this week's podcast, where Procurability's Jake Taylor helped us to rethink, reflect and re-examine procurement operating models, was right on point. The section I've chosen for you gives a great introduction to one of the key considerations of any model: decentralisation versus a centralised approach.
So to move into kind of, why pros and cons and, going back to this classic debate, given the new world that we live in, it's probably important to note, right, the journey that organizations take, when they start implementing an operating model, that a new organization that is not mature, all purchasing is done by the business, by the stakeholders. It's just go get whatever you need. We're growing. We need to be fast, first to market. Then eventually the leadership says, oh, we need to put some controls in place. We need to, have some procurement organization, better manage our spend, more effectively manage our spend. So then they start implementing a classic central model, centralized procurement owned by the CPO. Here's our policies. You're not approved to purchase whatever you want anymore. And then over time, as you noted, Philip, that, okay, now maybe centralized, there's too much controls. It's too bureaucratic. It's too slow to purchase. We need to move some of that back to the business. So we'll be more decentralized, putting more power with the stakeholders, and we'll put more procurement with the local businesses. So the classic pros and cons between the two, getting back to your question, is, it's the balance between speed and control, right? And a decentralized model focuses more on speed of getting product faster to the stakeholders, whereas a centralized model focuses more on the controls, on ensuring that procurement is the fiduciary expert of spending the company's money effectively, with value, with the right suppliers, managing that risk. There is no proper answer one end of the spectrum or the other. It's a balance for every organization. And I think hybrid has developed to kind of be that middle ground between the effective speed of procurement with the right controls, ensuring risk is properly evaluated for all the supply base.
It's interesting that a hybrid approach is now coming to the fore, particularly due to the potential that tech enablement brings us, isn't it? So to listen to the full episode with Jake, use the link in the show notes.
4.
Cybersecurity is one of the top risks most organisations have to manage, and with the number of attacks increasing year on year and the fact they're happening more often, it's no wonder that cyber risk regularly tops C-level risk rankings as a high priority and a short-term concern. And this is relevant for procurement, as almost 20% of all data breaches are associated with third parties in a company's supply chain. So I was interested to hear Kelly Barner's take on the topic, when she explored how this plays out in practice in a recent episode of Dial P for Procurement. Kelly takes us through the case of Expeditors International and how a 2022 cyber attack not only impacted them as a company, but also led to a lawsuit brought by a customer, iRobot. You can check out the episode using the link to the show notes.
This is Procurement 6 from Art of Procurement. To get notified every time an episode is published, go to artofprocurement.com/subscribe. 3.
I was interested to read on LinkedIn about the way in which UK company Marks & Spencer dealt with the recent use of their trademark Percy Pig by a small gelato producer. Now, it's not the discussion about trademarks that stood out to me, but the tone in which the issue was addressed. M&S received a lot of praise for the way their cease and desist letter was phrased. I particularly liked this take by mediator and social entrepreneur Ruth Everard, who likened the approach to some childhood advice. When I was a young child, whenever I asked for something by whining or screaming, my dad would say, "Put a smile in your voice, please." I learnt, slower perhaps than I should have done, that we get what we need, want or deserve far quicker, more often and to a greater extent if we're polite and gracious in asking for it. Sounds like a great way to keep things civil with suppliers too.
2.
Recent research over here in the UK by BDO has found investment in the circular economy rose by 18% year on year. While industrial and manufacturing attracted over a third of the investment, it was interesting to see that food and drink also accounted for nearly 10%. And circular inputs, where raw materials are replaced by circular alternatives, featured significantly. Becoming more circular rather than linear is certainly something that many companies are considering, and it's encouraging to think that procurement can be at the heart of many conversations about the way forward.
1.
Should cost modelling is not a new approach. In fact, it was one of my favourite parts of procurement. And yet, it's often under-leveraged as a cost reduction strategy. Now, procurement's typical approach is to look at the overall price being paid and squeeze the supplier's margins. Now, understanding the detailed cost breakdown of any product, including materials, machining costs, labour, transportation overhead and profit, opens the door to more educated conversations with suppliers and a better quality finished product delivered on time at reasonable price. So, we're delighted to welcome Yoshiro Kato, the co-founder and CEO of Caddy, an expert in should cost analysis, to our live industry webinar on May the 30th. Yoshiro will share more about its effectiveness as a cost reduction strategy and also for its potential to serve as a catalyst for collaboration with key suppliers. Register now using the link in the show notes.
Thanks for listening. We'll be back next Friday at 6 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time. If you've enjoyed this pod, help us grow and tell your peers to search for Procurement 6 wherever they get their podcasts.